Hello. Welcome to the Independent Women's Forum, and this is our Center for Economic Opportunity. I'm the Center Director, Patrice Onwuka, and it is Hispanic, Hispanic Heritage Month. I'm sorry. We are wrapping up with the end of Hispanic Heritage Month, and I'm excited today to bring some fabulous ladies to talk about the achievements as well as the opportunities and the challenges facing the Hispanic community. But first, as you know, every month we've got a little bit of housekeeping to do. So, first off, if you do not sign up for our newsletter, The Pointer, please do go to IWF/CEO for our Center for Economic Opportunity, and you will have a sign up there. If you missed all of our analysis, you missed maybe some of our TV hits, you missed our latest op-eds, we covered tech, labor, and economic policy. You don't want to miss it. So please make sure you sign up for our newsletter. But as I was saying, let's get into it. So this is the final week of Hispanic Heritage Month. This holiday actually began being observed in 1968 under President Lyndon B. Johnson at the time, and it was only a week. But President Reagan thought, well, Hispanics have contributed so much more than just a week's worth of accomplishments. Let's expand it to an entire month. And so he did that, and it runs from September 15th through October 15th. Now, Hispanic Americans are, an amazing group. 62 million people strong, the largest minority group in the nation. And don't get it twisted. They are not all the same. They have different heritages, different traditions, different cultures. They hail from Mexico, Spain, the Caribbean, Central and even South America. And so, I'm not going to boil them down to a bunch of breakfast tacos like First Lady Jill Biden did. But I am going to say that they bring a lot of flavor to America in lots of different ways. And I think one of the the two areas that I'm most impressed with the Hispanic community is, number one, the strong entrepreneurial spirit, and number two, the family and the strong family structure. I mean, I love to see Hispanic families. They're strong, deep values. It's so many things that they teach their children about respecting elders and respecting authority and honor, and when I look at the fact that Hispanics are driving the immigration and the cultural and the growth in numbers in the United States, there's no question about how much that they contribute to this nation. So I am here and happy to present to you two fantastic ladies that I know who are going to talk to me about the accomplishments of Hispanic Americans as well as the challenges that they face and their unique backgrounds. So Yali Nunez, you've probably seen her and read some of her commentary here at IWF. She's a senior fellow. She is also a fantastic media professional with years of experience in major broadcast in his Latino serving communities, but also, working, I believe, Yali, for the RNC. Is that correct? That's right. And so she's going to speak to us. And I also have a good former colleague and good friend, Judy Pino. Judy is the communications director at New Civil Liberties Alliance. Judy as well has a background in broadcast. So these ladies know how to talk and how to present themselves extremely well. And I'm looking forward to getting into today's discussion. So ladies, welcome.
Thank you very much. Here.
Terrific. Well, I want you guys to introduce yourself a little bit. I mean, I'd love to hear your story. And also, what does Hispanic Heritage Month mean to you? So, Judy, I'll start with you, and then Yali next, since you guys are in that order on my screen.
Okay. Well, I am a native Cuban. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and Yali's neck of the woods now. She's over there now. I'm in Virginia at this moment. But, for me, Hispanic heritage is really about reflection. It's an opportunity to teach my children about the legacy that my parents have left really for them. Because as a Cuban, we all know it's a communist country. Well, when I was a kid, it was under the dictatorship of Fidel Castro. So if you think things are bad now, back then they were even worse, complete and utter repression. And so my mom was a young mom, and I was there, and they just decided we can't do this any longer. And so my dad, actually, it's the typical story. My dad took to a little boat And he went to the United States hoping to claim us. But then something very interesting happened. Turmoil erupted in the embassies, the Peruvian embassy specifically. And the Mario boat lift was born. And if you guys want to find out a little bit more about the plight of the Cubans, the Mario boat lift, I would invite you to check out a C-SPAN documentary called In Their Own Words. And it's 30 minutes, but they literally spoke to people as they got off the boat. And people were just talking about why they left, the tremendous repression, how their own neighbors would throw rocks at them. And it all came about May of 1980 that Fidel Castro basically said, okay, if you don't stand with the revolution, then you can go. And you can guess what happened next. By the time it was over in October, 125,000 Cubans arrived in the land of freedom. And I can tell you that I empower my children and I empower anybody I meet to understand love and protection for this country and what we stand for, and to really understand economic freedom, freedom as we know it here in the United States. So I'm so happy you're having this conversation and you invited us to talk about this today, Patrice.
Perfect.
Well, I can say that we have not similar stories. I'm Cuban as well. I was born and raised in Cuba, Patrice and Judy. Today actually is my anniversary, my 19th year that I left Cuba.
Wow.
So I've been here in the United States for 18 years now, and I could not be more grateful and happy that this country is such a wonderful nation, that the greatest nation on earth opened the doors to me and to my family for a new opportunity. I think Judy was saying what her generation went through. Right now, things are even worse, and it's very, very sad to see that so many generations have been victims of such repression, such oppression, and it all culminates in the fact that it's a communist regime. That's what we do not want to see here. So I'm very, very thankful that there are spaces such as the Independent Women's Forum defending the rights of women across the nation, of Hispanic women as well, and that you're opening this forum for an intellectual and respectful conversation and discussion of how can we move our nation and our community forward.
Beautiful. I mean, you guys, you also know I'm an immigrant. I'm from the Caribbean. I don't know if I don't think I don't qualify Hispanic. I consider myself Black, but I see my story reflected in yours as well. While I didn't come here from repression or political violence, potentially, my family came here for opportunity. And I say all the time, America is the greatest nation, and it's the only place where you started does not determine how far you go or where you'll end. And the idea of protecting the values and the system that makes it possible for anyone to climb the ladder. I think that's why we do what we do. That's why I know I do what I do and why I get up every single day. I'd love to dig just a little bit deeper and for you guys to share the real story of what life is like in Cuba, or what life was like in Cuba, because I think today's American youth, they are brainwashed to believe that Cuba is beautiful with, brightly colored pastel buildings and, old school cars and everybody on bicycles. And you see Beyonce and Jay-Z, going frolicking around and everything is great there. But I think we all know there's a tourist area and then there's the rest of where everyone else lives. And I would love for either of you guys or both of you to give some color to what is behind the scenes that we don't see or hear reported.
Judy, do you wanna go first, or do you want me to talk a little bit about? Well, I'll start. I'll start because I lived there till I was 16 years old, and was able to not only experience exactly what you're saying, Patrice, because they romanticize outside of Cuba is very much, it's very popular to romanticize the island with this idea of old cars and beautiful old buildings. And then you go to La Habana Vieja, which is the old section of Havana, and you see this old structures and beautiful architecture that is actually falling apart. It's not that it's old, it's just it's falling apart. It's falling apart in pieces because the government does not have the necessary resources in order to repair it and to keep such a beautiful, beautiful country afloat. And then they depend on places like China or Russia to give them basically crumbs so the country can continue to survive. If you want to call it that. Although seeing what's happening recently with all the problematic situations that the people are facing, this is not even surviving anymore. People are scrapping for little things, like they don't have. Recently, with the natural disasters, they lack electricity, they lack water. You have mothers spending 2, 3, 4 days without electricity, and this is the good areas of town. The good areas of town. When you go to the rural areas, things and situations are much worse. So this whole concept of romanticizing Cuba is very old at this point. It doesn't work anymore. I think people are realizing, and even here in the United States, people are realizing that that's not the case. It's not the old collection or collectible cars anymore. This is a regime that is oppressing people, that is bringing down a whip with policies that are affecting not just one generation, but several generations. You see Judy, you see the generation after her, you see my generation, you will see the generation after my generation suffer the impact and the negative effects of the policies that have been implemented for so long. And that's exactly why I do not want to see in our nation. That suffering, we need to avoid it at all costs. And in order to do that, we need to choose and vote for politicians that actually preserve our democracy and a way of living in America.
That was beautifully put. And, and I'm glad that you went first, because Yali's experience is completely different from mine. Yali was a teenager when she left. I left when I was 5 years old. So really what I have are the stories that my family tells me, and the desperation of my parents in their early 20s to say, I'm going to hop on a boat, like a little boat that could, my dad was at sea for 11 days and he was rescued by a naval destroyer. So it's like, it was just like, it's crazy. He looks back and he says, the level of desperation was such, if I could do it again today, I wouldn't, because I didn't know any better, but it was definitely better what was going on. I just had to get you guys out of there. And so, and my mom, again, people, when they leave their native countries, I don't think anybody wants to leave their native country. People leave their families behind. They leave their traditions. They leave their homes, their possessions, you name it. And then to come to a country where you don't really speak the language, it's scary. It's really scary. But gosh, it takes guts. It really, really does. And here we are decades later, we're still seeing the oppression. And I can't believe that people still fall for this romanticism of communism with the T-shirts with El Che. I want to stop them and say, what are you doing? Do you even know what you have on your chest? Anyway, we could go on and on, but definitely empowering Latinos to embrace economic freedom is the way to go, especially the new generation.
Well, I first off, your stories are beautiful, both of them. And, I am right there with you. I don't understand how today's young people are thinking that democratic socialism, or let me put that in quotes, democratic socialism is somehow going to be better, or not going to fail the way we've seen these policies implemented in other nations, including Cuba. But we'll come back to that. I'm going to put a pin in that topic for a minute and talk about economic freedom and what it looks like here in the United States. I mean, I think, entrepreneurship, everybody has the ability to be an entrepreneur, whether it's a side hustle, whether you're just driving for Uber and get a 1099K form and you make a little extra money, or you are a full solo entrepreneur, full business, whatever the case is. And it's just tremendous to see how Hispanics have the fastest growing entrepreneurship rates in the nation. And it's so endemic in your community. So I would love, Yali, I think according to the SBA, nearly 1 in 4 businesses is Hispanic owned, which is amazing because we have millions of businesses in the United States. Where do you think this entrepreneurial spirit comes from, and why is it so alive? Why has it not died out? And people, Hispanics, don't just go work for the government or go work for someone else?
Yeah, I mean, Latinos living in the United States account for 2.3 trillions of the economy of this country. We are entrepreneurials are hard because we come from places where we're not being able to develop that skill, and we want to realize it here in the land of plenty, right? In the land of opportunity, where we can actually make it happen, where we can have that independence without a government watching over us, telling us what to do, how to do it. So I think, Latinos want to experiment. They want to be part of the American experiment in general. They want to become economically independent and sufficient in order to provide for their families. We're also a huge part of what is going to represent the vote in the United States in the future. We already are the largest minority in the country, and that is not going to stop. As you see the numbers, they show that the community continues to grow on a daily basis. And I think it's very, very important to realize that at this point in time, we are a huge part of the American economy, and we move it forward as well as other, not only minorities, but everybody that lives, every American. Patrice and Judy, I never thought of being a Hispanic myself. I thought that we were all humans. All of a sudden, I come to the United States, and there's all these subdivisions. There's Blacks, there's Hispanics, there's Asians. I believe that we're all Americans. I think that's the main thing. There are communities within a huge community, which is the American community, but I really want to start pushing this idea that we're all patriots, we're all Americans, and we all come here with the same idea. Either if we come fresh out of a boat, or we come legally through the border, or we come through a visa lottery, we're all Americans. And at the end of the day, yes, there is the Hispanic community, and there is the African American community, and there's the Asian American community. But at the end of the day, the community that matters the most is the American community. And those are the ideals that we need to be defending on a daily basis. When we come to this country, we come with a compromise in our hearts to be in a better, to fight for a better life in a better place. So that's I think what we're missing these days. We continue to divide ourselves within sectors and communities, and I think we need to start pushing the notion that we're all Americans in this great land, the land of opportunity. And that is why we have to preserve the democracy that we have here.
Mm-hmm. And in that same vein, I was floored when I saw the statistics that U.S. Latinos, if we were like an independent country, Latinos would rank fifth in the world because we're consumers. And even during COVID, we outranked everybody in consumption and also going back to work. And I really agree with Yali on that. We all should be one. When you come to this country, you're here because you're escaping something, right? You're escaping repression. You're escaping a terrible economy or whatever, violence, whatever it is. So I think it's really important that people understand what this nation was built on and not bring the ideas, the bad ideas or policies from their country over here, because that's the reason why we left, right? So that's one of the big things I think that we need to push Hispanic heritage.
Well, and picking up on that vein, we all are affected by taxes, right? The only difference in taxation is your income, not your skin color, not your ethnicity. We're all affected by bad policies and regulations. When you overregulate specific industries, when you make it harder for people to get job licenses to work, that affects Hispanics, that affects Blacks, that affects whites. I mean, it affects all of us. What are some of the policies, the negative policies, the ones that have, maybe some of them are meant to be helpful but have unintended consequences? What are the policies that you guys feel are the ones that are being pitched to the Latino community but are totally wrong, and why do you think so? And I'll open it up to either of you.
I would say recently what we've seen with a good intention, because I don't think that when you try to help with healthcare, like Obama did, or with student loans like Biden recently did, I don't think there's a bad intention behind it, but there's certainly a failure to comprehend the consequence of it. And I think it's not just the responsibility of the administration, but of those that serve the administration to explain what this really does eventually. You see, in places like Cuba, they want to socialize healthcare, they want to socialize education. And the consequence is that the country is in complete and utter poverty. It doesn't work. It just doesn't. When I came to the United States, and I know a lot of people, different people have different situations, right? But when I came here, I did not come with the idea of the government paying for my education. I struggled. I worked full time. I went to school full time, and I got out of college without owing a penny to anyone. Now, I thank you. Now, I do not comprehend why this generation now needs their student loans paid off by a generation that struggled to pay their own, the struggle to pave their path to success. So this kind of socialization of the different sectors, such as healthcare or education, is just incorrect. And I don't want to say that it's from a bad place at heart, but it's definitely from an ignorant place and a very ignorant perspective of what it will end up doing for the next generations to come.
Yali, you mentioned the student loan situation. I think you're absolutely right about that. And New Civil Liberties Alliance, where I work, we're getting ready to sue the government over that, because there are certain things that the government just cannot do, just does not have the right to do. There's a system in place in this country, and there's a Congress, and if you have issues with policy, you go to your congressperson. You can't just do it with a pen and a phone, right? Like they used to say. But I'll tell you, the issues that really matter to Hispanics are the economy, healthcare, education, especially. We don't want certain things being taught to our children. We want control of that. Violent crime. Those are the important things. But I'll tell you what else Hispanics care about. They want an agenda that is not anti-family and that is not anti-freedom. And it just boils down to that. Just like everybody else, we're all being impacted with the same issues. And so, I think we have a lot to tell our Congress people, and we really need to push some of these policies. We need to forgo some of this stuff that it just doesn't work for our country.
Well, and I think that these issues are top of mind. We're 4 weeks exactly away from Election Day, and IWF, we don't support or oppose any particular candidate. We push policies, but it's pretty easy to see where the left and the right are falling on these policies. And so, I mean, I don't think I tossed this question in there, but just generally, where do you see, and I'm already going to qualify it. Hispanics are not homogenous. There's no Hispanic vote, because, you have different experiences in it, and they inform how different Latino groups are voting and thinking about these issues. But, you mentioned the top issues, but why do you think that there's been kind of this movement towards the right for different Hispanic communities? I understand Cubans tend to already be very conservative in their values and economic desire for economic freedom, but we're seeing other parts of the Hispanic movement, Hispanic electorate, move away from left-leaning policies. I love either of your or both of your takes on this.
I think to understand a Hispanic vote in general, you have to understand what's happening in Latin America. And part of it started in Cuba, where with all these guerrilla movements that were led by the regime in Latin America, and that have brought to the rest of Latin America and to part of the Caribbean too, this left policies and this dictatorial regime policies that have affected places like Nicaragua, like Venezuela. Now we're seeing it in Colombia. We see Brazil moving to the left too. And it all originates on the policies that they are implementing and the idealism that they are following. So when we see this happening all throughout Latin America, and you see the immigration coming up north to the United States, you see people coming, yes, with different problems, but because of the same, but the problem originates in the same place. See what I'm saying? So all these immigrants from Venezuela, from Nicaragua, you will see from Colombia eventually, they're escaping the same thing. They're escaping the poverty and the political problems in their countries because of the politics. So when you see these people coming here, many of them have families, and it creates this whole wave and domino effect in the rest of the Hispanic population, where they do not want to see this happening here, because they see their family members and themselves escaping from this. So when they go to the polls and they give their vote to a certain candidate, that's where they say, listen, I don't want somebody bringing this type of policies here. I want somebody that puts control on the border. I want somebody that advocates for a certain type of academic education for my children, but not for teaching my children whatever they perceive my children should be learning, when I should be the ultimate person deciding what to teach them. So I think that's where it all originates. It originates from understanding the problems that Latin America is experiencing, and that affecting the immigration to the United States. And then ultimately, once they're here, they want something different.
That's right. And I would also say, you know, people are not foolish. And I don't think they really toe any political line. I think Hispanics just want a better life. They realize that the economy is in tatters. And so if they're not able to provide for their families, they're going to seek, you know, they're going to seek the policies that are going to change that. You know, any anti-family, anti-religion, you know, they're also religious. They're hardworking. They don't want people to hand them anything. They just want the opportunity to work and start businesses and everything else that we all do in this country. So you know, so when you're saying why are we seeing them lean to a little bit to the right, is because these last few years have just been terrible for not just Hispanics, just for everybody. So that is what we're seeing, and I'd like to see what how the midterms turn out, and what exactly are the policies that are going to come out of it, and what Latinos are going to, how they're going to push the envelope here in the election cycle.
No, I mean, I think you guys are absolutely right. The Black community probably votes a little bit closer to the Democratic Party than but you're seeing an erosion of support there as well for a lot of the same reasons. I mean, if you're a small business owner, and your government, your local or state government shut you down for months on end, you know, for no good reason, or implemented stringent COVID policies that made it impossible for you to reopen, you know, or you saw your kids were forced to stay at home, when in other states like yours, Yali, kids were going to school well before that. You know, I think that there are a lot of policies that have that socialist root, that have that big government control, government deciding, and government organizing, that the root of that mentality at the root of those policies. And I think people are rejecting it. And I'm hopeful that we see across the board among women, among the different minority groups, and frankly, among all of the different demographics and age groups and income groups, that there's a repudiation of this mentality, of this communist, socialist, whatever you'd like to call it, non-freedom, non-economic freedom, non-personal freedom, non-individualist, all of those ideals that we hold dear, that there's a repudiation of those who do the opposite. So I'm looking forward to that as well. You know, as we're wrapping up our time here, I think we covered so much about the socialism versus capitalism, and you guys gave some great color to the discussion conversation that's being held about these two, these two world views. I would love for you guys to talk about something positive, the American dream. We are often told today that the American dream is dead. It's not for kids of our skin color, my skin color, your skin color, that somehow it's an outdated idea, that you can't pull yourself up by the bootstraps because the system is so rigged against you that kids shouldn't even try. But I would argue to say that there are three examples of the American dream on our screen right now. So I pose this question to you: is the American dream alive and attainable for any young person today?
I would say definitely. I think we're going through a little phase
Hmm.
with what's happening with inflation and with certain policies that we're seeing from this administration. But I definitely believe in the American dream, and I encourage every single young person and every single American to believe in the American dream. We can do better every day. This is the greatest land in the world. We have all the opportunities. We live in a wonderful democracy that we need to defend every single day with nails and teeth, because there's no other place like this in the world. And if we make an effort as Americans and we unite, not through political campaigns saying we're going to unify everybody and then we give divisive speeches, but to really, really unite as Americans, if we unite all the communities within the American community, I definitely believe that we can see that American dream get brighter and brighter by the minute.
I love that. And I am also very positive. I do believe the American dream is alive and well. We are the land of opportunity. And as long as we can protect and defend and believe in those pillars of economic freedom that we've been discussing here, then I think we're going to be all right. I think from generation to generation, we're going to be all right. We just have to keep that dream alive.
Yeah, I'll be third, and I'll say I agree with you. I think it absolutely, where, like I said before, where you start does not have to dictate where you end. And the fact that we're seeing so many people, I'm a first generation immigrant. I came here with my family, and I'm where I am now is farther than where my parents were when they were my age, and I have hope that my children are going to be even farther ahead of where I am now at my age, and when they're my age. So progressively we see the generations doing better, particularly in the immigrant communities, and that should be an example and a confirmation that it absolutely opportunity is here, progress is here, economic mobility is here for those who are willing to pursue it. And I love what you said, Yali. We have to protect it with teeth and nail to make sure that it's not turned into something that is just a hope and a wish, but delivers a whole lot of despair. So you guys are amazing ladies. Did you know that?
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. We are rounding up the month of Hispanic Heritage Month, but every day is Love America Day. I think that's a good way to look at it. Love America Day. So Judy and Yali, thank you again so much for joining me.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Terrific. Well, thank you all for tuning in today. We had a great discussion about Hispanic Heritage Month and just the different diversities within the Latino community. But we're all unified, no matter what our background or our ethnicity is, which is unified with a love and appreciation for America, what makes our country so unique, what makes it possible for anyone to achieve whatever they desire and have in their heart. So this is the kind of content we like to bring to you at Independent Women's Forum, our Center for Economic Opportunity. We cover labor, we cover tech, we cover broad economic policy, but we also give a little bit of face and personal experience to color and what the policies really mean and how they impact us. So if you want to continue this conversation, is the American dream dead? go to our sister project, Independent Women's Network. That is iwnetwork.com. That is where you join a community of women, a community of men as well, where you can sound off, you can share your experiences and talk to myself and other colleagues about, what's going on in the nation. You can get some tools, programming, resources, whatever you need to help you articulate really why America is great, the challenges we face, and how we can overcome them. So please head on over to iwnetwork.com to activate your free membership. And if you want to do more than that, we have higher levels of membership. You are more than welcome to do them. So again, thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for sticking around. Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter at IWF/CEO, and you can sign up for our newsletter right there. Okay, I think that's it. Until next time, I hope that you will be well, strive, and thrive. Thanks for joining us.